So this is the second annual Just 100. It's our list of the 100 companies that are doing right by America. How are they doing in terms of worker treatment? Are they treating their customers well? This is a big one this year. Privacy is a huge issue. We also look at how well do they treat the environment? What's their record on human rights issues around the world? And the theme that kind of emerged this year was one of self-regulation. We are finding that some of the best companies in America are actually stepping in and putting their own sorts of regulations out there. The government isn't telling them to do this, but the market is. Their investors are, their customers are. So for instance, Microsoft, they're the #1 company on the list. They score very well across all the metrics we looked at. They have an internal carbon tax. The CFO literally taxes the different Microsoft business lines based on their carbon output. And based on that carbon output, then the businesses have to pay a tax. They're doing it because it's good for the environment and ultimately it's good for business. We sent out our tech reporter, Alex Konrad, to Seattle, and this is what he told us about his view on how Microsoft behaves.
It was really interesting to see everything firsthand. We did a field trip to this industrial neighborhood where, this experimental data center using fuel cells was being tested. There's no Microsoft signage. It's this dingy street with an HVAC, air conditioning company in front. And then we walked through a basketball court of this HVAC company, which is a Microsoft partner, and get to this kind of nondescript building and walk in, and all of a sudden you see this bright white, kind of spacey racks of servers with these big gray boxes on top. And those boxes were fuel cells. They can use the fuel cell on top of the server rack to power all of a data center's operations. You don't need the transistors, the substation, think all those electrical cables. All of that takes a lot of energy and a lot of cost. And so what Microsoft's doing is basically cutting out all that middle stuff and just having these fuel cells right there. Fuel cells are too expensive today for a lot of commercial use, but Microsoft hopes that if they can prove this demand and build out these big data centers using fuel cells, they can drive down the prices and make this a much more eco-friendly and cost-friendly solution. And I think that speaks to sort of the cool thing that Microsoft is doing and that I saw there, which is a lot of conscious environmental efforts that also impact their bottom line. Here's what CEO Satya Nadella had to tell us himself.
Environmental thing has always been a priority, but now it's sort of as builders of big data centers, it's a very core priority for us. We are going to basically be carbon neutral in all of our energy consumption. So I would say it's a much more of an existential priority for us because we're a large consumer of power. You got to take where the world is, what are some of the challenges of the world, and then figure out, is your business interest really helping the world solve some of its pressing challenges? If not, then we have a problem.
So where does all this good corporate behavior leave us? I genuinely don't know. It kind of gets back to the question I asked myself a lot through this reporting process, which is how much of a difference are all of these companies making? As an investor, it leaves you in a position to make more money if you want to invest in companies that are doing well for the world. The Just 100 returned 7.5% over an almost year period, compared to the S&P 500's 3.6%. And Microsoft over that period returned almost 30%. I think the investment case actually also expands your options as a consumer. Tom's and Patagonia are very famous examples of companies that have a clear social mission and that are very popular, especially with millennial consumers, because increasingly companies are communicating the ways in which they're trying to be good to the world.